Hello everyone, good evening. This is take 2 of my introduction. This morning we had some technical difficulties, so I apologize for that. What I'd like to do is go ahead and introduce myself and tell you a little bit about myself and what I do. So my name is Lisa Golshani and I'm an estate planning attorney. I've been practicing for about 13 years exclusively estate planning. And my primary office is in Calabasas, and I also have a satellite location in Valencia as well. And I have clients, throughout California, some of whom I work with virtually. So what I'd like to do is just tell you a little bit about myself, how I arrived here, and why you should be listening to me to begin with. And first off, I'd just like to thank my friend Shauna Shapiro Jackson, who is just a dynamite person and who is the founder of Momipedia. I want to thank her for giving me the opportunity to be on the panel of experts, to be available to you to give you guidance. Along with many other specialists in the field, in various other fields. So I'm really looking forward to being a resource to you and being available to answer any questions you have pertaining to wills, trusts, special needs trusts, guardian nominations, and things of a related nature. So please feel free to comment any questions you may have. And or email me questions. So today's just going to be an introduction, and moving forward every Thursday at 10:30 a.m. I'm going to cover a different topic. So for example, I think I'll start next week with how to go about selecting guardians for your kids, which is a really challenging thing to do for many people. So just to give you a little background on myself, before I opened my own practice, I worked for a couple of other law firms, and it really wasn't what I had expected. I went into law wanting to serve as an advisor and as a counselor to my clients, and I realized that in a traditional estate planning practice, it usually doesn't really work that way. Things are very transactional in nature. The attorney prepares documents like wills and trusts for the clients to sign, and the clients come in and they sign the documents and then they shelf them and then they never look at them again, and they mark estate planning off their to-do list. And then, years down the road, when something happens to the client, the loved ones pull the documents off the shelf and they look at them and they realize that the plan really doesn't work and doesn't really reflect what that client, what that individual wanted to have happen. And there's a number of different reasons that happens. One of which is that a lot of attorneys charge on an hourly basis. So what happens is that discourages communication because people are afraid of, thanks for the likes, guys. It's good to know that there's somebody out there and I'm not just talking to myself. I was going to say that it discourages communication when people contact their attorney and they're afraid of getting a surprise bill in the mail a couple of weeks later. So that's one reason that a lot of plans fail to work, is because clients don't reach out to their attorneys for the appropriate advice that they need. And sometimes even small things can have big ramifications. So for example, frequently I'll get a call from a client as to how they should title an asset or who should be the beneficiary on their life insurance policy. And if that decision isn't chosen properly, it can have really negative ramifications. So that's very important. And one of the other reasons we see a lot of estate plans fail to work is that, traditionally estate planning was really geared towards the elderly. And it was looked at as a one-shot deal, something you do and you never look at it again. And if you're 80 years old and you're putting a plan in place, that may work for you, but I'm catering towards the younger families who are going to have many, many changes throughout their lifetime, because your assets may change, your wishes may change, and the laws may change. So it is something that needs to be periodically reviewed and potentially updated from time to time. The general rule of thumb is roughly every 3 years or so, or if there's any significant change that comes up beforehand. So for example, if you acquire a new business or you acquire new real property, or something significant changes, if there's a dissolution of marriage, things of that nature, then you would touch base sooner than 3 years. But it is something that needs to be periodically updated. So I place a lot of emphasis on that in my practice. And then one of the other things that I see a lot of estate plans fail to work is that people don't title their assets properly, which we refer to as the funding process when you establish a trust. So you can have the best set of estate planning documents in the world, but if your assets aren't titled in the trust and your beneficiary designations on things like retirement plans and life insurance policies aren't coordinated with your estate plan, then all you have basically is an ineffective stack of documents. So it's really, really an essential and integral part of the process. So for example, when I was in law school, I had a relative who worked with an attorney and established a living trust, and then he passed away, and his children ultimately ended up going to the probate court, and we were always wondering what happened. You know, we thought he had that squared away and that the family wouldn't have to deal with court. But what happened was that he hadn't titled his assets in the trust. And I remember looking at his estate planning binder, and it said, "Congratulations on putting your plan in place. Now go move your assets into your trust." And guess what? He didn't do it. And it's not because he was stupid or lazy, but it was because he didn't know how important it was, and the attorney didn't give him the tools that he needed to make sure that that happens. And that is not uncommon. That is actually very, very common. And I remember at the time when I was in law school thinking, this must be malpractice that this wasn't taken care of. But shortly after I started practicing, I realized not only is it not malpractice, it's common practice. So the vast majority of attorneys do not fund their clients' estate plans. So that's something that I place a lot of emphasis on in my practice. And that's one of the reasons I decided to open my own office, was to cater my practice to younger families, and hopefully establish plans for them that will work for them when they need them to work, not just establish a set of documents that are ineffective. So I do everything on a flat fee basis that's agreed to in advance, so there's never any surprise billings in my office, and my clients can feel free to communicate with me. And I invite my clients to review their estate plans free of charge every 3 years to make sure that it keeps up with any potential changes in the law or their wishes or their assets. And lastly, I place a lot of emphasis on the funding of the assets to make sure everything is titled properly. So that just gives you a little bit of background on my office. On a personal note, I am also a mom. I have 3 children of my own, all boys, and my Joshua is 9 years old, and I have Jonah that is 7 years old, and I have my Aaron that is 4 years old. So I have a busy household, and I've been married for about 16 years, and my husband is a neurologist and a neuroscientist, primarily focused on studying epilepsy and autism, and his emphasis is really more on the basic science research. So I know as a mother, as a wife, that this is really something kind of planning you do for the benefit of not only yourself, but for the people you love. It's really one of the best gifts you can give to your children, is to think these issues through and address them ahead of time. Nobody enjoys thinking about these issues. But it really is a legacy of love and responsibility to, address these issues ahead of time. So I just wanted to invite you to please contact me anytime you have questions or suggestions on topics that you'd like me to cover in the future. I think I'll start, like I said, next week with how to go about nominating guardians for your children. And then moving forward, each week we'll tackle a different subject. But please, I would love to hear your comments or things that you would like me to cover. And just in regards to today and moving forward, I'd just like to say that this is supposed to be informational in nature. It's not, please don't construe it as legal advice. You know, if you have a particular situation that you need assistance with, please feel free to reach out to me or your other attorney of choice to get legal advice. So this is just generic information in general, okay? So basically we're going to cover issues about how to go about protecting your children and ensuring that they're provided for and protected no matter what the future holds. And I think that's what I wanted to cover for tonight. If you have any questions, let me see if I have anything here. I don't think I see anything as of now, but thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you for future Facebook Live shows. Thank you. Bye.